What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video I'm doing a follow-up from my recent video where I discussed my list for the top 20 strikers in the UFC. And since a lot of you guys had complaints with the list, a lot of you guys were commenting, casual bro, dog shit list, man. I decided to let you guys have your own say and not just go off the comments and be like, how could you put this guy above this guy, bro? That's a terrible take. So I let the masses have their say, and I created a 32-man bracket for you guys to vote on who you believe was the best striker in the UFC right now. And these are the results. Now, the 32-man bracket is still there is still an element of subjectiveness to that. Maybe you guys would put someone else in there that wasn't in there, but ultimately, I don't think I missed out on anyone that actually would have won. Let's be honest. Okay, maybe I missed out on fucking, I don't know, your favorite number 12 ranked welterweight striker or some shit. I'm not sure. Number 11 ranked real estate agent. But ultimately, I think the rightful winner was determined in terms of who was actually in the running. So yeah, I'll be running through every single one of the polls that I put up. Obviously, the first round had 16 polls, the second round had 8, then 4, and then 2, and then the finale as well, which had over 5,000 people vote on it, so I think it's a pretty good sample size. And yeah, I'll be discussing some of the matchups which were a bit closer and giving my kind of justification for who is the better striker with those ones, but some of these matchups are pretty clear. So yeah, anyway, enough yap. Let's get into the video and starting off with the tournament bracket and the first round matchups. Okay, so basically, I just chucked 32 names into a fucking bracket generator. I thought these guys were all very good strikers in their own right and deserving to be on the list. If some of your guys were missing that you like, I don't really care. But yeah, the matchups in the first round, I should say, we had Ilia Topuria versus Arnold Allen. We had Cyril Gane versus Robert Whittaker. We had Max Holloway versus Brandon Royval. We had Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Brandon Moreno. We had Sean O'Malley versus Charles Oliveira. We had Sean Strickland versus Tom Aspinall. We had Alexander Volkanovski versus Shara Magomedov. We had Umar Nurmagomedov versus Joel Alvarez. We had Alex Pereira versus Song Yadong. We also had Yair Rodriguez versus Carlos Prates. We had Jose Aldo versus MVP. We also had Izzy versus Rafael Fiziev. We had Peter Yan versus Justin Gaethje. We also had Dustin Poirier versus Jack Della Maddalena. And Leon Edwards versus Islam Makhachev. And the final matchup of round 1 was Jan Blachowicz versus Corey Sandhagen. So those were the round 1 matchups. And now let's go through the results of that first round bracket. And these we'll just run through quickly. Ilia Topuria won comfortably against Arnold Allen. Basically got the entire vote. Robert Whittaker beat Cyril Gane, about 65% of the vote. Max Holloway beat Brandon Royval. Stephen Thompson comfortably beat Brandon Moreno. Sean O'Malley beat Charles Oliveira with about 90% of those. Sean Strickland had a close win against Tom Aspinall. Alexander Volkanovski comfortably beat Shara Magomedov. Umar had a relatively close win over Joel Alvarez. Alex Pereira beat Song Yadong. I really want to know the 2% that voted Song Yadong. Yair Rodriguez edged out Carlos Prates. Jose Aldo edged out MVP. Too much edging going on here. Israel Adesanya beat Rafael Fiziev in your guys' eyes. Peter Yan, Justin Gaethje, that was a win for Yan, obviously. Poirier, Jack Della Maddalena, one of the better, more intriguing matchups, but it did go to Poirier, sorry. Islam had a relatively close win over Leon Edwards, and then Corey Sandhagen won with about 60% of the vote against Jan Blachowicz. So those were the round 1 matchups, some interesting ones there. The Jose Aldo MVP matchup proved to be quite close and competitive in terms of who you guys thought was the better striker. I think at this stage of Jose Aldo's career, I might be leaning MVP, but I get the lighter weight class skill argument and the fact that Aldo has beaten higher level opponents. I disagreed with your Corey Sandhagen, Jan Blachowicz vote. I think even though Sandhagen does have the lighter man skill, I do believe Blachowicz arguably outstriking Izzy and giving a relatively competitive fight to Pereira even on the feet, and as well as many other knockouts and wins that he's had in his career on the feet. I think he's done enough a bit to be a bit higher than Corey Sandhagen, but I don't hate the choice there. The other close one, which I didn't think was going to be that close, was Yair Rodriguez versus Carlos Prates, because a lot of you guys were shitting on me for my take of having Prates in the top 20 strikers, but 43% of you thought he was a better striker than Yair Rodriguez. So maybe my take wasn't too bad at all, which I did say. I don't think it's a crazy take, but I don't remember any other super close matchups. Gane Whittaker was a close one. I think some people just get turned off by the fact that Gane got dropped by Tai Tuivasa, and I think a lot of people are more hesitant to give credit to heavyweights in terms of striking skill. Who else? Strickland and Tom Aspinall was relatively close. Look, Aspinall has the power for sure, but I think most of you guys agreed with my assessment in terms of Aspinall is a dangerous striker, but he's not the most technical, which I think some people were voting. I think there was a bit of inconsistency. I did just say the wording of like who is a better striker, so maybe some of you guys didn't really know what you were supposed to be voting on, like who's more dangerous or who's more powerful or who's like just more skilled. So there was a bit of variation, I do think, but apart from that, most of the round one matchups were pretty clear. There was some absolute layups like Pereira Song Yadong and Ilya versus Arnold Allen, which you guys were basically in the comments like, why even bother putting up the poll, which was fair. But yeah, all of these early polls, because if you don't know how YouTube community posting works, the more you post like quicker, it takes less traction away from like the previous posts, because it tries to show the most recent stuff. So I put up 16 polls and like I put them all up back to back to back, so I gave them no time to breathe. So the first few, like those middle kind of earlier ones, really got not as many votes as the later ones, which got over 1,000 votes, because again, it just doesn't show the other polls because they've been like drowned out by recent polls. So yeah, round one was a decent round. There was some really interesting matchups, like Poirier JDM was, even though Poirier is clearly more proven at this level, a lot of guys were saying, I do think JDM's got the capability to get there in the next couple years. So it was an interesting round one. Let me know what you thought of the matchups. Which poll results were you guys in disagreement with? But anyway, without further ado, let's move on to round two and the top 16. Okay, so the matchups here, we had Ilya Topuria versus Robert Whittaker, we had Max Holloway versus Stephen Thompson, we had Sean O'Malley versus Sean Strickland, Alexander Volkanovski versus Umar Nurmagomedov, Alex Pereira versus Yair Rodriguez, we had Jose Aldo versus Israel Adesanya, Peter Yan versus Dustin Poirier, and we had Islam Makhachev versus Corey Sandhagen as the matchups determining who would go through to the top 8. So now, without further ado, let's take a look at the poll results and see what you guys had to say. Okay, so we had Ilya Topuria beat Robert Whittaker very comfortably. Max Holloway, Stephen Thompson, very close actually, but it did go to Maximus Holloway. Sean O'Malley beat Sean Strickland with about 76% of the vote. Volkanovski beat Umar. Pereira beat Yair, both of those quite comfortable. Jose Aldo again with a close win over Israel Adesanya. Peter Yan beat Dustin Poirier with about 75% of the vote. And Islam Makhachev won about 60% of the vote to beat Corey Sandhagen and move on to the top 8. Now, some of these matchups were quite interesting. Close one again with Jose Aldo versus Izzy. I did think a lot of people were going to pick Izzy. I did not think Jose Aldo was going to make it as far as he did in the tournament, to be honest. I mean, he won two polls by like 55% of the vote. So he did not win comfortably, but Jose Aldo managed to scrape his way through to the top 8. It's funny because I don't think many people would agree that Jose Aldo is a top 8 striker in the UFC right now, maybe in his prime, but like some of these are just circumstance, like, oh yeah, they just got an easy matchup, or they scraped through and then bang, somehow they're top 8, because it's just 2 wins to get to the technically top 8. But I do think if we kind of reorganized these polls and made them a bit different, he probably wouldn't have got as far if we'd like done a seedings sort of bullshit like that. But I tried to like have like Ilya and Pereira and Yan and like O'Malley and shit on the kind of opposite sides of the bracket, all those kind of guys, so it wasn't like you didn't get fucking Ilya versus like Peter Yan in the first round, because that would have just been retarded. But Aldo, Izzy and Aldo MVP, as I talked about before, both very close. I actually don't even mind the take about Aldo being better than Izzy striking wise, just because Izzy has been, I mean, they've both been outstruck by similar levels of competition in terms of like relative to their division. What other close ones were there? Islam, Corey Sandhagen. I just think at this stage you can't say Corey Sandhagen is like a top 10, top 15 striker in the UFC. Like, I don't know, he's just looked mid. Like, against Peter Yan, he looked solid, but like even Song Yadong, he didn't look amazing. And then like Cheeto Vera, Rob Font, I know he just grappled against Font, and then like Umar, outstruck by Umar, wasn't the best look. So Corey, I love him. He commented on one of my videos. He's gonna forever be I'll be a fan of him for ages. Great fighter, but I just think at this stage he's becoming more of a mixed martial artist, not a pure striker, which is good for his game, but also stop training with Trevor Whitman. But what other matchups were there? Nothing else. Oh, Holloway Wonderboy, that was close. I wasn't sure where you guys were going to go on that. I had an edge that most people were going to go Holloway just in terms of, like, I guess he's got a few more fans. And, again, the lighter weight class skill thing is probably going to lean a few more people to picking Holloway. And also Wonderboy did just get slept by Buckley in comparison to Holloway, who lost to Ilya. So it's, like, a bit different levels. And, obviously, Wonderboy has got carried before by Pettis. So that didn't surprise me heaps. Some of the polls were a little bit closer than I expected. If you have any other questions on the polls or any statements to make or whatever, I'm going to go live soon. I just lost my job, so I'm cooked, chat, but I'm going to go live soon because I got nothing else to do with my time now. So yeah, pray for Left Lane. If anyone knows how to get me a job, reach out on Instagram. But until my channel's monetized, I'm fucked. But anyway, I'll go live because I got nothing to do. So we can do some sort of debates and shit and talk about some of the matchups and if you agree or not with my placements and all of that stuff. But yeah, for the most part, round 2, a lot of these are pretty one-sided matchups. Again, it was still at the stage where, like, the guys who got layups in round 1 are now like going up against the guys who are clearly like top 5 strikers or top 10 strikers in the UFC. So a few of these were quite one-sided polls, but still some interesting kind of matchups to think about as well. Anyway, let's move on though to another. Wait, am I bugging? Hang on, Leon. Who'd Leon? No, Leon went against Islam the first time and lost. Yeah, anyway, sorry. Let's move on, though, to the top 8 strikers in the UFC. Down to the top 8, and we have 4 matchups here. We got Ilya Topuria versus Max Holloway. Sean O'Malley versus Alexander Volkanovski. Alex Pereira versus Jose Aldo. How did bro make it this far? And Peter Yan versus Islam Makhachev. Those are the matchups to determine who goes into the top 4, the semi-finals. But now let's look at the poll results. I'll spend a bit more time on some of these matchups as well, because this video has gone way shorter than I thought it would. Normally would be at the fucking 30-minute mark by now, but we're keeping it light. Hopefully under 20, maybe. Anyway, let's look at the poll results for these matchups. So, Ilya Topuria versus Max Holloway. Ilya won quite comfortably. Shocker. You'll see with the next matchup as well, he just gets fucking layup fights, so it's like clear. He gets layup matchups, so it's clear that he's the better striker. But yeah, everyone kind of figured he was just better than Max Holloway at striking, because yeah, he knocked him out like a month ago. So that was a pretty clear result for that poll. But the next matchup, what did we have for the next matchup? Alexander Volkanovski versus Sean O'Malley. This one was actually surprising. I thought people would go O'Malley, just because I think I thought people were going to use the eye test and be like, oh, O'Malley's quicker and he's got counter right hand step back KOs and stuff. But I respect the take of having Volk above him. Look, has O'Malley been KO'd? No. So that is one thing you can like have in his benefit, to be like, oh, he's a better striker than Volk. He hasn't been slept. And Volk's been KO'd twice now, which is unfortunate. But I don't know. I don't hate the take. Like, I think Volk has better like fundamental boxing, and O'Malley's like way quicker, way more flashy, way like all that kind of thing. So he looks better to the eye, but Volk is a bit more effective in my opinion at times. It's close though. I do think O'Malley's slightly better, but maybe that's just like the speed of him that kind of leads me to believe that. But anyway, the next matchup was Alex Pereira versus Jose Aldo. I don't know how the fuck Aldo made it this far, but yeah, his run ends here because yeah, Pereira won comfortably here. There's not much to talk about. Aldo just wasn't going to win this matchup after too close. I respect the MVP and him beating MVP and Izzy though, like based poll results from you guys, good stuff. But the last matchup was Islam Makhachev versus Peter Yan, and Peter Yan got this one done. Islam had some close ones with Corey Sandhagen, with Leon Edwards, but his run also came to an end here. I agree with this one. I do think Peter Yan is just a better, more complete, well-rounded, quicker, smoother striker. You could say maybe Islam's defense is slightly better, but even that, like, Islam has not been KO'd either. So, sorry, Peter Yan hasn't been KO'd, Islam has, so even that does work in Yan's favour. So I do agree with that poll result. But anyway, let's move on to the top 4 and the semi-finals. The first semi-final matchup was Ilya Topuria versus not Sean O'Malley, it's Volk. I don't know why I typed Sean O'Malley, I'm retarded. Anyway, edit that out. But Ilya versus Volk is the first semi-final matchup, and you know what I'm talking about when I was saying Ilya was getting some of these layups of like Holloway and Volk back to back. Like, I mean, there's kind of a difficult argument to make that either of those guys are better than him at striking. And then the other one was Peter Yan versus Alex Pereira. So yeah, let's take a look at the poll results, and I'll probably spend about a minute on each of these matchups. But yeah, as shouldn't be too surprising with at least one of these results. Anyway, let's take a look at the polls. So, to about no one's surprise, Ilya quite comfortably did beat Volkanovski in this poll. Shocker, who could have guessed? Again, the 14%, I don't hate them. I don't think they're crazy, because you can say that, oh, Volk's those kicks and stuff. But, yeah, I do think if you get KO'd by someone, if it's not a comeback from behind fluke, it is pretty safe to say most of the time that you are a better striker than them. Look, maybe there is the argument, say Volk's technique and his well-rounded game on the feet is better with the kicks, with all that kind of stuff. And Ilya's, you could be like, oh, Ilya's just power merchant, bro. But no, I do think Ilya's a far better boxer than Volk. We saw that by how they were able to do against Holloway even. But yeah, Ilya beats Volk quite comfortably, to be expected. But Peter Yan vs Alex Pereira, this one was the more interesting semi-final in my opinion. Next up, Peter Yan, Alex Pereira. This was not as close as I thought. I actually think there's a very good argument, and I said in my list that Peter Yan is the better striker than Alex Pereira. I don't hate the take that Pereira's better, but I do think, what I was aiming for was to take power out of the equation, which you could say is hypocritical because or not like take it out of the equation, but include it less, because yes, Peter Yan is not sleeping people, and obviously KO power is a part of striking. That does mean you can't be like, oh, but this guy's more technical. Yeah, but if he's got pillow hands and he's not KOing people, this guy has an advantage over him. So that's why there is a bit of a grey area. But I thought Peter Yan had a good argument to be closer. Do I think it's a crazy take to say Pereira's a better striker? No, not at all. He's proved himself to be very good. But in my opinion, Pereira getting KO'd by Izzy, having a back and forth fight with Roundtree on the feet, these kind of things. Not saying he's bad at all. He's amazing, incredible striker. But Peter Yan, the closest he's come to being outstruck was Sean O'Malley, and that was arguably a robbery. I mean, you can say Yan included the grappling, but even the striking portions of that fight were extremely close. And I think people can mostly agree in a 5-rounder, O'Malley probably would have got drowned and lost the last 2, maybe. But yeah, I do think there's a solid argument that Yan's above him. I think it's kind of insane that the margin was this wide. But no matter what, I don't hate the result. I think it's reasonable for you guys to say Pereira's better. But I was interested to see how many people didn't vote for Yan, because I do think Yan is, I don't want to call him underrated because everyone knows he's elite, but in this case, dude, his striking is incredible, so I wanted him to get a bit more credit, but I don't hate him losing the matchup. Anyway, let's now move on to the final, and it's Ilia Topuria versus Alex Pereira. Now, I didn't know whether I wanted to talk about the matchup first, then reveal the results, or reveal the results, then talk about the matchup. I think I'll just talk about the matchup briefly. I think it is an interesting one because I think Ilia Topuria, most people kind of covered this when they were commenting on the polls. Ilia is by far the better boxer in most people's eyes. He's the more fundamental kind of clean-looking striker, but people did seem to say that Alex Pereira's well-roundedness in terms of his kicking game, the fact that he throws in head kicks, his elite leg kicking game, does put him ahead of Ilia. So there were some people saying, bro, Ilia hasn't been KO'd, obviously he's better. Some people saying Pereira throws kicks more, you can't just be a boxer and be the best striker. So there was a very good back and forth, and as I said, over 5,000 people voted on this poll at the time of cutting it off. It's still up. I'm probably going to take it down before this video so you guys can't just comment and be like, oh yeah, these were the winners, guys, by the way, this is who won, and then people just don't watch the video. So if you already you've made it this far through anyway, but if you know who already fucking won, don't just comment all the winners. Let people watch the video. But yeah, without further ado, let's reveal the winner as I tap on my random wooden desk. The winner is Alex Pereira Shum. Pereira wins with about 60%, 63-64% of the vote. Again, I thought this was going to be pretty 50-50. I thought there was going to be some Ilia supporters, but I guess a lot of people don't like it. Look, I'm not going to say everyone's biased, because I do think it's incredibly close and I don't disagree with Pereira winning necessarily, but I do think there's some people where it's oh, I like Pereira, I don't like Ilia, obviously I'm going to vote Pereira. So I think that did come into it for some of the matchups, probably with Aldo and Izzy, not to say that it's definitely Izzy's better, but some of those fights it was is this non-biased, this guy's actually better, or is this just people voting on who they like more? But don't worry, we're gonna have a poll for that. I'm gonna do a fan favorites 32-man bracket as well. Then their bias won't be a thing because it's just objective or subjective. Sorry. But Yeah, Ilya lost. Pereira won 65% of the vote. It kind of varied around. I woke up when I put it up like when I went to sleep, and then I woke up about 9 hours later, and it was about like 56-57% for Pereira, and then it kind of grew a little bit more as it went up, and then, yeah, I think it's reached, I don't know how much it's at now, probably around like 65%. But yeah, Pereira wins the best striker in the UFC grand prize, I guess. Congrats, Pereira. You'll be receiving your winnings shortly of congratulations and applause, because obviously we know Pereira's going to watch this video and feel very happy with this victory. Obviously, this is going to mean a lot to him, so congrats. I know I worked so hard for these, you guys. I'll do a hardest workers in the UFC tier list. Pantoja's going to be number 1, and all the other black fighters are going to be number 2. Anyway, that's a video for another day because I got nothing else to talk about right now, so I'm just kind of yapping. But yeah, that is it, guys. Hope you enjoyed. If you want me to do more stuff like this, I'm going to do it because I have no content ideas. So probably over the longer break as well, when there's no UFC, I'll do a bunch of different things. Grapplers, fan favorites, least favorite fighter, power, chin. I can do this with literally anyone, like a tournament 32-man bracket style kind of fighter thing. So yeah, let me know what other like type of brackets you guys would want to see. But yeah, I'm unemployed, guys, so prez in the comments. Can we get a prez for left lane in the chat, please? But anyway, goodbye. 310 picks coming probably tomorrow or the day after. I don't know, we'll see what happens. Bye, guys. Goodbye.